What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are backing out with another video. Today I'm going to be going over a super budget deck for the V format that I think is not underrated, but it's just like so overlooked. It's like actually insane. And if you're somebody new starting off, or just somebody who wants to get into the clan in general, don't want to spring for like deep police and don't really want to look at Gallop or other Enigma and stuff right now, this is a really solid budget deck that allows you to kind of get into the clan, like I said, and just actually perform and play pretty well at least the local level, if not a little bit more. I feel like you can really catch a lot of people off guard with this. So let's check it out. I'm going to do this video a little bit differently. I'm just going to lay the cards out and kind of explain them as I go along, a little bit different than my more detailed videos, my typical ones, just trying to save a little time with editing and whatnot. Got a lot of things going on right now. So let's get into it. Let's begin. And if you guys are interested in purchasing any of the cards you see here today, we do have a TCG player affiliate link down in the description below. Absolutely no cost to you. You can shop through that link, help support the channel. I will never ask you guys for money or anything like that, so no subscriptions, but that really does help me out, so thank you in advance. Also, if you are enjoying the content, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe click the like button on this video. Again, really helps me out. So let's get started. Over here in the grade 3s, I'm actually going to go into Metalborg. So Metalborg is something that, like I said, super underrated, super unappreciated, underappreciated in general, and I do have the SPs of this over here. I just really love the art when it first came out. I know it's not a great card in general, but that's where people kind of sleep on this, because I believe it actually does have some potential, and I've taken games off people. Like I said, I've like rogued my way through a lot of different matchups to the point where like they don't know what the deck does necessarily, they're not expecting the multi-attack from this, but this guy over here, CB1, and this guy gets an extra 10k. Also, your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater cards from their hand to Guardian Circle, so when this guy attacked, which is nice. And then once placed on Van, search for up to one of my Metalborgs from our deck. There is a couple different targets now you can choose. There's one obvious one that we will go over in a little bit. So again, helping you enable the multi-attack. The reride is enabled by something else, and also just limiting your opponent to what they can call if you did have to sit and act and use the act ability on this card. So actually pretty decent. And then in culmination with this, especially if you go second, is pretty good. This is the black clad top tier deity, Brad Black. So we all know what Brad Black does at this point, but if you don't, basically at the end of the battle, this attacked, look at the top 7, add a grade 3 card to hand. Then if your opponent's grade 3, ditch, what is it, 2 cards? Yeah, 2 cards from hand, reride something, and then just something that's not called itself, and then it gets an extra 10k -1 drive. So you basically go into this swing, also use its counterblast skill to give your front row an extra 10k. So you swing with him, you know, search the top 7, add this or whatever other grade 3 that you want. Also, just a quick point, you don't have to ride the one that you added. It's just anything from hand, so you can still miss on this and still ride from hand. That's absolutely fine. Over here, and then you basically re-ride into this, get another multi-attack off of his call. It still activates an auto when placed, get another force marker. It just becomes a pretty oppressive, and again, this is super cheap deck. You can get the regular versions of these for, you know, cents on the dollar. Same thing with Brad Black at this point too. Lastly, for the grade 3s, I'm actually choosing one more alternative ride target. Very easy to get into its threshold over here. Gets an extra crit, gets an extra drive and stuff. The multi-attack with this is pretty good too. It's pretty free overall, so I think that at least one of is good. Maybe I would up this to 2 at very most, but this isn't like an Enigma and Pure deck, so with that in mind, I'm keeping it at a 1 of. Next up here, we are getting into the grade 2s. This is the Metalborg call target that you pretty much want to go to. This is Metalborg Urbuster. So again, I do have the SPs for them. I'm telling you, I love this deck. I actually like really dig the art overall. Metalborgs are probably my favorite archetype for Dimension Police, which is a clan I don't do a lot on the channel with, but I do actually play quite a lot in my spare time. Auto on Van Rear, when this guy is placed, if a card with Metalborg in its name, that's your Vanguard, you get the Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and then that unit gets, this unit gets an extra 10k, so giving yourself a little bit more power. Again, you might be on a multi kind of force marker circle. You also give itself, you also control your opponent's board a little bit with that removal, so I think it's actually pretty solid. You don't have the most soul in the world, but the reride of this definitely helps, and I feel like you can kind of spam this whenever, and it's never really incorrect. Next up here, another promo card that we did get for the deck. This is going to be 4 of Metalborg Lionetter. So when this guy is rode upon by a grade 3 with Metalborg in its card name, we discard a card from our hand, call this card to rear guard circle, get Imaginative Force, put that marker on your Vanguard circle. So kind of our what do they call it? Not Grand Gallop. Oh my god, I forgot. The Dimensional Police grade 2. Very similar, kind of in archetype theme for Metalborg. But over here, second skill, when this unit attacks, this unit gets an additional 5k until the end of battle for each force marker on your Vanguard circle. So kind of spreading out the Vanguard power, giving yourself 10k if you want to put 2 markers on your Vanguard circle on the ride when this something goes over it. Essentially, still making it at least a 20k base, which is pretty solid overall. Next up over here in our grade 2 lineup, I'm still running 2 of the Platinum Aces. Now, Platinum Aces do threaten for a crit, kind of give like an inherent pressure, which is super easy to kind of reach in this deck. That whole threshold of 30,000 or greater is kind of a joke at this point. So easy for Dimension Police to kind of hit. And just for a Soul Blast, you get an extra 10k and a crit. So on top of the force marker you might be on top of, you know, the 10k that this might be on, it actually gets pretty scary in the late game overall and allows you to have some crit pressure. Next up, playing the resource game with your opponent is always fun. So we run 2 of the Gel Sledges. I feel like it's just really solid. I feel like every DP deck in at least V has to run this to some extent. Like, it is just a super solid card and can kind of help you, especially if you're trying to like damage map and deny your opponent certain resources. So I feel like this is actually really decent at a 2 of. I feel like that's the right ratio. Next up here, getting into the grade 1s, again kind of going in archetype theming, we are going to be looking at, oops, I think I just screwed up the order here. We're looking at 4 of these. This is going to be 4 of Metalborg Mist Ghost. So Mist Ghost is pretty solid overall. When placed on Van or rear from hand, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 card with Metalborg in its card name from among them, and then reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. If you put a card into your hand and this guy's on rear, you choose a card from your hand, discard it. So you always want to ride this personally. On Rearguard Circle, also when your grade 3 Vanguard is placed Soul Blast 1 until the end of turn, all your Vanguards get an additional 5k. This unit gets that, so I don't think the second skill is worth it. I think it's more worth it to use this one and that one over here, so just be aware of that. But if you have plenty of soul, go for it. That extra 5k could make a difference in the long run. Shares that Metalborg name, search for other things too. Yeah, really solid overall. Next up here, getting into another grade 1, we are running 4 of Dimensional Robo Die Scooper. So Die Scooper searches the top 7 for a grade 3, and again, it just makes it a little bit easier to run Enigma and add a 1 of with this guy in the deck. Just makes it easier to find overall. So I am running 4 of that guy, and then also one placed on rear. Your Vanguard is grade 3, it gets 5k. Just really simple. I think I proxied these out in other decks right here, but this is 3 of the Twin Order. Twin Order is just such a broken card, like it's absolutely insane. So basically when it boosts, one of your Vanguards gets an additional 10k until the end of turn for each one of your force markers. With this now generating more, with this over here and the re-ride, it just becomes like insane. So Twin Order is definitely still necessary in the deck in my opinion. And then lastly, just to round out the things over here, we're just running 1 of the Grand Rope, the top 5 searcher. Again, just super solid. And then the last card in the main deck, just 1 of the V starters. You can use any which one that you want. Lastly, getting into our trigger lineup over here, I'm going to be starting off with 4 of the Heal Guardians. Again, these are grade 3s, easy to search off of various cards right here. Just helps you limit your damage a little bit earlier into the game, because to have 1 successful turn, you really don't need too many counterblasts. This is really all that uses the counterblast, potentially the other Metalborg too, if you do want. So I think it's good to kind of still include that to make sure that you kind of limit your damage exposure early. I'm going to be running 7 crit over here, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 crit and then 5 draw. We do need to see our pieces in our deck, I feel like, and the extra draw definitely does help us kind of get there. 7 crit just because we do want to still be lethal on our swings. We are swinging multiple times with our Vanguard overall, so I am super happy with this deck. I really feel like it has a whole lot of potential, especially for such a cheap price. The Twin Orders might be a little bit right now, but everything else in this deck is pennies. Like, you can really put this deck together for, like, I want to say probably like 30 bucks, like around there. The triggers aren't too much, I don't think, either. I don't think anything in this deck is extremely expensive. If you want to get the SPs, I think the SPs are actually pretty cheap now too. I paid quite a pretty penny back when they came out, but now they're definitely cheap. So with the addition of Enigma, some of the other Metalborg cards that we did get, Twin Order is still really solid. It just has a really complete kind of good feeling game plan. And again, you're not going to win absolutely every game, but I feel like you are going to rogue out and kill a lot of opponents that you just, like, they would not expect. Like, nobody expects Metalborgs, like absolutely nobody. This would be one of the bottom decks that you'd, like, wouldn't if you had to tell somebody to write a list of every deck and what you would expect to see at, like, you know, a competition, even locals and stuff, Metalborg would probably not even be on that list. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know any comments down below if anything you would change in the deck. Have you played this deck? What are you currently playing right now? Anything like that. So thank you guys again. This is Alex from Team Generation signing out.